My name is Rachel and I'm 28 years old. At my sister Emma's wedding last month, she slapped me across the face in front of 300 guests because I refused to give her my grandmother's antique necklace, the one our grandmother specifically left to me in her will. What Emma didn't know was that our grandmother had also left me a letter explaining why she made that choice, revealing a family secret that would destroy everything Emma believed about herself, our parents, and the foundation of our entire family's carefully constructed lies. Call to action. Before we dive into this incredible story of family betrayal and ultimate karma, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below. And if you're ready for a wild ride of family drama that'll have you questioning everything about blood loyalty, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because this story has more twists than a soap opera, and you won't want to miss a single shocking detail of how one slap at a wedding unraveled decades of family deception. To understand how we got to that moment at the wedding, you need to know about my family dynamics. Emma and I grew up in what everyone considered the perfect American family in suburban Chicago. Our parents, David and Margaret Stevens, were pillars of the community. Dad was a successful real estate developer. Mom ran a high-end interior design business. We lived in a gorgeous colonial house with a white picket fence, literally. Emma, 3 years older than me, was always the golden child. She was homecoming, Queen Valedictorian, went to Northwestern on a full scholarship, and became a successful marketing executive. Everything came easily to her: friends, relationships, career opportunities. She had this magnetic personality that drew people in, and our parents absolutely adored her. I, on the other hand, was the family disappointment. I struggled in school, barely graduated college, and bounced between various jobs trying to find my passion. While Emma dated the quarterback and later successful businessmen, I had a series of failed relationships. Our parents made it clear through their actions, if not their words, that Emma was their pride and joy while I was just there. The only person who ever made me feel truly valued was our grandmother, Helen Stevens. She lived with us during my teenage years after Grandpa died, and we formed an incredible bond. While everyone else fawned over Emma's achievements, Grandma would sit with me for hours, teaching me to knit, sharing stories about her youth, and always telling me that I was special in ways that others couldn't see yet. Grandma Helen had this beautiful antique necklace, a stunning sapphire pendant surrounded by diamonds that had been in our family for 4 generations. It was her most prized possession, passed down from her grandmother. Emma had always assumed it would go to her, being the eldest and the favorite. She'd often joke about wearing it to her wedding someday. When Grandma died 2 years ago, the reading of her will shocked everyone. She left most of her estate to be divided between Emma and me equally, but she specifically bequeathed the necklace to me alone. Emma was furious, but she tried to play it off as no big deal. "It's just a necklace," she said, though I could see the hurt and confusion in her eyes. Along with the necklace, I inherited Grandma's jewelry box. It wasn't until months later that I discovered a hidden compartment containing a sealed envelope with my name on it. The letter inside, written in Grandma's careful handwriting, began, "My dearest Rachel, if you're reading this, then I'm gone and it's time you learned the truth about our family." The contents of that letter turned my world upside down. It revealed that Emma wasn't actually our parents' biological daughter. When Mom was 25, she had been having an affair with her boss while Dad was traveling for work. She got pregnant and convinced Dad the baby was his. Emma had no idea she was the product of an affair, and neither did Dad. Only Mom and Grandma Helen knew the truth. Grandma explained that she had discovered the affair when she walked in on Mom with her boss when Emma was just a baby. Mom had begged Grandma to keep the secret, threatening to cut her off from both granddaughters if she ever told. Grandma agreed to stay silent but made Mom promise to treat both daughters equally. When Mom failed to keep that promise, showing obvious favoritism to Emma while neglecting me emotionally, Grandma decided to balance things in her own way. The letter explained why I had always been Grandma's favorite, why she left me the necklace, and why she felt I deserved to know the truth. She wrote, "Rachel, you are the only legitimate grandchild I have, the only one who carries your grandfather's true bloodline. Emma may not be biologically part of our family, but she has been loved and spoiled beyond measure. You, my dear, have been overlooked despite being the true Stephen's heir. I hope someday you'll find the strength to use this information to claim your rightful place in this family." For months I wrestled with what to do with this information. Part of me wanted to confront Mom immediately to demand an explanation for years of emotional neglect while the affair baby got everything. But another part of me knew that revealing this secret would destroy our family completely. Dad would be devastated to learn that his precious Emma wasn't his biological daughter, and Emma would be shattered to discover her entire identity was built on a lie. I decided to keep the secret, at least for now, but I held onto that letter like a nuclear weapon, knowing that if things ever got bad enough, I had the power to level the playing field completely. The tension around the necklace continued to simmer. Emma would make passive-aggressive comments about how it should have gone to her as the eldest daughter. Our parents clearly agreed with her, often mentioning how beautiful it would look with Emma's wedding dress when she got engaged to her boyfriend Marcus 2 years later. When Emma announced her engagement, the necklace comments became more frequent and more pointed. "Grandma must have made a mistake in her will," Mom would say. "She was getting forgetful toward the end." Dad would add, "The necklace has always been meant for the eldest daughter. It's tradition." But I stood firm. Grandma had been completely lucid when she wrote that will, and she had her reasons for giving me the necklace, reasons that our parents couldn't even imagine. Every time they pressured me to hand it over, I thought about that letter hidden in my bedroom safe, and I felt a surge of righteous determination. The pressure intensified as the wedding approached. Emma stopped asking nicely and started demanding. She'd call me crying, saying I was ruining her special day by being selfish. Our parents organized family interventions trying to convince me to do the right thing and give Emma the necklace for her wedding day, even if I kept it afterward. But I refused every single time. And now I'm glad I did, because that refusal led to the moment that would change everything, the moment when Emma's true character was finally revealed to everyone who mattered. Emma's wedding day arrived on a perfect Saturday in September. The ceremony was held at the historic Drake Hotel in downtown Chicago, no expense spared. Emma looked absolutely stunning in her designer gown, and Marcus seemed genuinely happy. For a moment, watching her walk down the aisle, I almost felt guilty about keeping the necklace from her. The ceremony went off without a hitch. Emma was radiant, Dad cried during the father-daughter dance, and everyone commented on what a perfect couple they made. I had deliberately worn a simple black dress and kept the sapphire necklace at home, not wanting to cause any drama on her special day. During the cocktail hour, I was mingling with cousins I hadn't seen in years when Emma pulled me aside. Her bridal smile disappeared the moment we were alone. "Rachel, I need to talk to you," she said, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. "I've been thinking about this all day and I can't let it go any longer." "Emma, it's your wedding day. Can we please not—" "No, we're doing this now," she interrupted. "I want Grandma's necklace. I should be wearing it today. Everyone expects it. Aunt Carol already asked me why I'm not wearing it, and I had to make up some excuse about it being at the jeweler." I took a deep breath. "Emma, we've been through this 100 times. Grandma left it to me specifically. It's mine now." Her face flushed red under her carefully applied makeup. "It's supposed to be worn by the eldest daughter on her wedding day. It's family tradition, according to who I asked." Grandma clearly didn't feel bound by that tradition when she wrote her will. She was confused, the medications made her foggy, she was completely lucid. "Emma, you know that." Emma grabbed my arm, her perfectly manicured nails digging into my skin. "Rachel, please. This is my wedding day. Can't you just do this one thing for me? You can have it back tomorrow." For a split second, I almost caved. She looked so desperate, so vulnerable under all that bridal perfection. But then I remembered all the years of being overlooked, all the times our parents had made it clear that Emma was their real daughter while I was just an afterthought. I thought about the letter hidden in my safe at home, about the truth that would destroy Emma's perfect world. "No, Emma. I'm sorry, but no. Her expression transformed from pleading to pure rage faster than I'd ever seen. "You selfish bitch," she hissed. "You can't stand that I'm happy, can you? You've always been jealous of me, and now you're trying to ruin my wedding day because you're a miserable failure who can't find a man of your own." The words hit like physical blows. Years of resentment bubbled up inside me, but I forced myself to stay calm. "This has nothing to do with jealousy, Emma. Grandma left me the necklace because she wanted me to have it." "She felt sorry for you," Emma shouted loud enough that several nearby guests turned to look. "Everyone feels sorry for poor Rachel, the family disappointment, but I'm not going to enable your pathetic attention-seeking anymore." Before I could react, Emma's hand flew through the air and connected with my cheek in a sharp, stinging slap that echoed through the cocktail area. The sound seemed to freeze time, conversations stopped, glasses paused halfway to lips, and I felt every single person in the vicinity turn to stare at us. My face burned from the slap, but what hurt more was the humiliation. 300 wedding guests had just witnessed my sister assault me because I wouldn't give her jewelry that legally belonged to me. The sister who had always been painted as the perfect one had just shown her true colors in front of everyone who mattered to our family. I stood there for a moment, my hand pressed to my stinging cheek, looking at Emma's furious face. She seemed to realize what she'd done because her expression shifted from rage to shock to panic in rapid succession. "Rachel, I didn't mean, but I was done, completely done." Without saying a word, I turned and walked away. I grabbed my purse from my table, avoided eye contact with our horrified parents, who were rushing over to assess the damage, and headed straight for the exit. I could hear Emma calling after me, her voice high and desperate. "Rachel, wait, come back, I'm sorry, but I didn't turn around." I walked through that hotel lobby with my head held high, got in my car, and drove away from my sister's perfect wedding. The drive home was surreal. My phone immediately started buzzing with calls and texts: Mom, Dad, Emma, various relatives who had witnessed the scene. I turned it off and drove in silence, my cheek still throbbing from the slap. When I got home to my apartment, I sat on my couch and finally allowed myself to process what had happened. My sister had physically assaulted me at her own wedding because I wouldn't give her jewelry that belonged to me. In front of hundreds of people who would now forever remember her wedding as the day the bride slapped her sister in a fit of rage. For the first time since receiving Grandma's letter, I felt a sense of poetic justice. Emma had always gotten everything she wanted through charm and manipulation, but today her mask had slipped in the most public way possible. Today everyone saw who she really was underneath all that perfection. I opened a bottle of wine and toasted my absent grandmother. "Thanks for the lesson in family loyalty, Grandma," I said aloud. "I think I'm finally starting to understand why you really left me that necklace." Little did I know that Emma's public meltdown was just the beginning. What happened next would make the wedding slap look like a minor family squabble. Because when you humiliate someone in front of 300 people, you better be prepared for the consequences. The fallout started within hours. My phone, which I'd turned back on that evening, had 37 missed calls and over 100 text messages. The wedding reception had apparently continued without me, but according to the messages from various relatives, the atmosphere was tense and awkward. Everyone kept asking where I was, and Emma had spent most of the evening in tears, alternating between anger and guilt. Mom's voicemails were particularly revealing. In the first one, left just an hour after I'd departed, she was furious with me. "Rachel, Marie Stevens, you get back here right now. You cannot walk out on your sister's wedding over something this petty. You're embarrassing our entire family." But by the fifth voicemail, her tune had changed completely. "Honey, please call me back. Emma is beside herself. She knows she made a mistake, but she's devastated that you left. Please just come back and we can work this out as a family." The final voicemail, left around midnight, was pure desperation. "Rachel, the reception is over and Emma is locked in the bridal suite crying. She won't come out, won't talk to Marcus, won't talk to anyone. She keeps saying she's ruined everything. Please just call her. She needs her sister right now." I deleted every single message without responding. The next morning brought a new wave of communication attempts. Dad showed up at my apartment at 8 a.m., looking haggard and defeated. When I opened the door, he immediately launched into what was clearly a rehearsed speech. Rachel, we need to talk about what happened yesterday. Emma made a mistake, a big mistake, but she's family. She's your sister. We don't abandon family over one bad moment. I invited him in, made coffee, and listened to his pitch. He explained that Emma had barely slept, that she'd spent the entire night crying and apologizing to Marcus, who was understandably confused and hurt by his new wife's behavior. The honeymoon to Italy had been postponed because Emma was too distraught to travel. She wants to apologize to you properly, Dad said. She knows she crossed a line. But Rachel, you have to understand she's been planning this wedding for 2 years. Every detail had to be perfect, and she had this vision of wearing Grandma's necklace. When that didn't happen, she just snapped. I set down my coffee cup and looked at my father, really looked at him. He was 58 years old, graying at the temples with kind eyes that reminded me of Grandma Helen. The irony wasn't lost on me that he was here defending his affair baby while having no idea of the truth. Dad, let me ask you something, I said carefully. If one of your business partners slapped you in front of all your colleagues because you wouldn't give them something that legally belonged to you, would you just forgive them because they apologized? He was quiet for a long moment. That's different, Rachel. Emma is your sister. Is she, though? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Dad's eyebrows furrowed. What do you mean by that? I caught myself just in time. I mean, what kind of sister slaps her own family member at her wedding? Maybe being related by blood doesn't automatically make someone deserving of forgiveness. Something flickered across Dad's face, hurt confusion, maybe a hint of recognition that something deeper was at play here. But he didn't pursue it. Rachel, I'm asking you to be the bigger person here. Emma made a mistake, but she's paying for it. Her wedding day is ruined, her honeymoon is cancelled, and she's making herself sick with guilt. Isn't that punishment enough? Here's the thing about being asked to be the bigger person, it's usually code for let the person who wronged you off the hook so everyone else can feel comfortable again. I'd been the bigger person my entire life, watching Emma get praised while I got overlooked, accepting scraps of attention while she got the whole meal. I'll think about it, I told Dad, which was the closest thing to a commitment he was going to get. After he left, I made myself breakfast and really considered my options. I could forgive Emma, attend whatever make-up family dinner they inevitably planned, and go back to being the understanding little sister who never caused waves. Emma would learn that she could slap me in public and face minimal consequences. Our parents would go back to treating her like the golden child, and I would go back to being invisible. Or, I could hold my ground and see what happened when the perfect daughter didn't get her way for once. The decision became easier when Emma showed up at my apartment that afternoon. She looked terrible, red-eyed, pale, still wearing sweatpants from the night before. But instead of starting with an apology, she immediately went on the attack. "Are you happy now?" she demanded as soon as I opened the door. "I hope you're satisfied. You've ruined my wedding, my honeymoon, and probably my marriage before it even started. Marcus barely spoke to me this morning." I blinked at her, genuinely shocked by the audacity. "I ruined your wedding, Emma. You're the one who slapped me. Because you were being impossible. All I wanted was to borrow a stupid necklace for one day, and you couldn't even do that for me. On my wedding day." And there it was, no remorse, no acknowledgement of wrongdoing, just anger that I hadn't capitulated to her demands. This wasn't an apology visit. It was another attempt at manipulation. "So you're not here to apologize," I said. "I shouldn't have to apologize for having emotions. You pushed me to that point with your selfishness." That's when something clicked into place for me. Emma genuinely believed she was the victim in this situation. In her mind, my refusal to give her the necklace was a greater transgression than her physically assaulting me in public. She was incapable of seeing beyond her own desires to understand how her actions affected others. This realization gave me a strange sense of clarity. For years I'd wondered if maybe I really was the problem, if I was too sensitive or too selfish or too difficult. But standing there listening to Emma blame me for her own violent outburst, I finally understood that the problem had never been me. "You need to leave," I said quietly. "What? Get out of my apartment. Come back when you're ready to actually apologize for hitting me, not when you want to blame me for your own behavior." Emma's face went through several emotions before settling on disbelief. "You're seriously going to throw away our entire relationship over this? No, Emma. You already did that when you slapped me at your wedding." I closed the door on her shocked face and watched through the peephole as she stood there for several minutes, clearly expecting me to change my mind and open it again. When I didn't, she finally left, but not before pounding on the door and shouting, "This isn't over, Rachel. Family doesn't abandon family." The irony of those words coming from someone who had just blamed me for her own violence wasn't lost on me. But what Emma didn't know was that she was absolutely right. This wasn't over. In fact, it was just getting started. Emotional check-in. Can you believe Emma's reaction? Instead of apologizing, she doubled down and blamed Rachel for everything. This is where things get really intense because Emma's true character is finally showing, and Rachel is about to discover just how far her sister will go when she doesn't get her way. The gloves are about to come off completely, so make sure you're still with me because what happens next will blow your mind. The next few weeks were like psychological warfare. Emma launched a full-scale campaign to turn our entire extended family against me. She called every aunt, uncle, and cousin, spinning a sob story about how I had abandoned her on her wedding day over a silly necklace dispute. According to Emma's version, she had barely touched my arm and I had overreacted dramatically, storming out and refusing all attempts at reconciliation. The family group chat, which had always been relatively quiet, suddenly exploded with messages. Aunt Carol wrote long paragraphs about the importance of family forgiveness. Uncle Jim shared stories about how siblings in his generation had worked through much worse conflicts. Cousin Beth posted inspirational quotes about letting go of grudges, but the most hurtful betrayal came from our parents. Instead of defending me or at least staying neutral, they threw their full support behind Emma. Mom started calling me daily, not to check on how I was doing after being assaulted by my sister, but to pressure me into fixing the situation. "Rachel, this has gone on long enough," she said during one particularly manipulative call. "Emma is seeing a therapist now because she's so upset about your relationship. She's taking anxiety medication because she can't sleep. You're literally making your sister sick with your stubbornness." "Maybe she should have thought about that before she hit me," I replied. "It was one moment of stress. People make mistakes, but you're being vindictive and cruel by dragging this out. This is not the daughter I raised." That stung, but it also revealed something important. Our parents were more concerned with Emma's emotional comfort than with the fact that she had physically assaulted me in public. Their priorities couldn't have been clearer. The manipulation campaign intensified when Emma started posting on social media. She shared throwback photos of us as children with captions like, "Missing my sister so much today," and "Some relationships are worth fighting for, even when it's hard." She posted inspirational quotes about family bonds and forgiveness, each one clearly directed at me. The most insidious part was how she portrayed herself as the wounded party, trying desperately to reconcile, while I was the cold, unforgiving sister refusing to engage. She never mentioned the slap, the public humiliation, or her complete lack of genuine apology. To anyone following her social media, I looked like the villain in this story. Friends started reaching out, asking if everything was okay between Emma and me. Some had seen her posts and wanted to know my side of the story. Others had heard rumors through mutual acquaintances. I found myself in the exhausting position of having to defend my decision not to forgive someone who had assaulted me. But the real turning point came when Emma convinced our parents to organize what they called a family intervention. They invited me to Sunday dinner under the pretense of a normal family meal, but when I arrived I found Emma, Marcus, both our parents, and even Grandma Helen's sister, Great Aunt Rose, all sitting in the living room with serious expressions. "We're all here because we love you," Dad began. "And we're concerned about the direction this family conflict is taking." What followed was an hour of emotional manipulation disguised as concern. Each person took turns explaining how my stubbornness was affecting the family. Emma cried as she talked about how much she missed me and how sorry she was for reacting emotionally at her wedding. Marcus, looking uncomfortable, spoke about wanting his new wife to have a relationship with her sister. But it was Great Aunt Rose's contribution that really got to me. She was 83 years old, Grandma Helen's last living sibling and someone I'd always respected. Your grandmother would be heartbroken to see her granddaughters at odds like this, she said, her voice shaky with age and emotion. Helen always said that family was everything, that blood bonds were sacred. She'd want you girls to work this out. That's when I realized I had two choices. I could continue to be the scapegoat, accepting blame for Emma's behavior to keep the peace, or I could finally use the nuclear option that Grandma Helen had left me. I stood up slowly, looking around the room at all these people who were asking me to forgive and forget, while completely ignoring Emma's actions and refusal to take real responsibility. You all want to talk about what Grandma would have wanted, I said quietly. Let me tell you something about Grandma Helen that none of you know. I pulled out my phone and showed them a photo of Grandma's letter, not the contents, just enough to prove it existed. Before she died, Grandma left me a letter explaining exactly why she gave me the necklace and not Emma. Would you like to know what it said? The room went dead silent. I could see confusion on Dad's face, panic starting to creep into Mom's expression, and curiosity on everyone else's. The letter explains some family history that I think you'd all find very interesting. I continued, looking directly at Emma. Particularly you, Emma, since it concerns your origins. Mom went completely white. Rachel, don't what, Mom? Don't tell the truth, don't share what Grandma Helen thought was important enough to preserve in writing. Emma looked confused. What are you talking about? What origins? I felt the power of knowledge coursing through me. For the first time in this entire ordeal, I had control of the situation. The letter explains why you've always been Mom and Dad's favorite, Emma. It explains a lot of things, actually. Rachel. Mom's voice was a warning, but there was desperation in it too. I looked around the room again at all these people who had spent weeks pressuring me to forgive and forget, who had made me feel like the unreasonable one for not wanting to reconcile with someone who had assaulted me. I'll make you all a deal, I said. I'll read Grandma's letter out loud, right here, right now. We'll let the family matriarch speak from the grave about family loyalty and blood bonds. And then we can all decide together whether Emma deserves that necklace, whether I'm really the problem in this family, and whether Grandma Helen would actually want us to work this out. The silence that followed was deafening. I could practically hear hearts beating as everyone processed what I was offering and what it might mean. Emma broke the silence first. What could Grandma possibly have written about me that would? Everything, I said simply. She wrote everything. The tension in the room was suffocating. Mom looked like she might faint, Dad appeared completely bewildered, and Emma was staring at me with growing alarm. Great Aunt Rose leaned forward in her chair, her elderly eyes sharp with curiosity, while Marcus just looked uncomfortable to be witnessing this family drama. Rachel, please, Mom whispered. Can we talk privately? No, Mom. We've had weeks to talk privately, and you chose instead to organize this intervention to pressure me into forgiving Emma. So now we're doing this publicly, just like Emma chose to slap me publicly. I pulled up the photos of Grandma's letter on my phone. Would you like me to read it word for word, or should I just summarize the key points? This is ridiculous, Emma said, but her voice lacked conviction. What could Grandma possibly have written that would justify your behavior? Let's find out. I cleared my throat and began reading from the first photo. My dearest Rachel, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and it's time you learned the truth about our family. Dad's face was a mask of confusion. Truth about what? I continued reading. What I'm about to tell you will be shocking, but I believe you deserve to know why I've always felt a special connection to you and why I'm leaving you my most precious possession. Great Aunt Rose was leaning so far forward she was practically falling out of her chair. Helen never mentioned any family secrets to me. Because she was protecting someone, I said, looking directly at Mom. Someone who had begged her to keep a secret for over 30 years. Mom stood up abruptly. Stop. Please, Rachel. I'll do anything. I'll make Emma apologize properly. I'll buy you your own necklace. Just please don't read that letter. But her panic only convinced me that I was doing the right thing. Sit down, Mom. It's time everyone knew the truth. Emma was looking back and forth between Mom and me, clearly sensing that whatever was in that letter was bigger than a simple family dispute. Mom, what is she talking about? I looked at my sister, my half-sister as I now knew, and felt a strange mix of pity and satisfaction. Emma, according to Grandma Helen's letter, you're not Dad's biological daughter. The words hung in the air like a bomb that hadn't exploded yet. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Dad made a sound like he'd been punched in the stomach. What did you just say? He whispered. Mom had an affair when Emma was conceived. With her boss. Grandma caught them together when Emma was a baby and confronted Mom about it. Mom begged Grandma to keep the secret, threatening to cut off contact with both granddaughters if she ever told. Emma's face had gone from pale to gray. That's not true. That can't be true. I held up my phone again. Would you like me to read the exact passage? Grandma was very detailed about dates and circumstances. Dad was staring at Mom with an expression of dawning horror. Margaret, tell me this isn't true. Mom opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. No words came out. The letter explains why Grandma left me the necklace, I continued. She wrote, Rachel, you are the only legitimate grandchild. I have the only one who carries your grandfather's true bloodline. Emma may not be biologically part of our family, but she has been loved and spoiled beyond measure. You, my dear, have been overlooked despite being the true Stevens heir. Emma made a choking sound and sank into her chair. This is a lie. You're making this up to hurt me. Am I? I swiped to another photo. Here's the part where Grandma describes walking in on Mom and her boss David Morrison when Emma was 6 months old. She was supposed to babysit, but she had a key and walked in on them in the living room. Dad's voice was barely audible. David Morrison. Your old boss David Morrison. Mom finally found her voice, but it came out as a broken whisper. David, Oh my God. Dad sat down heavily, his face in his hands. Oh my God, it's true. I can see it now. Emma looks just like him. How did I never see it before? Great Aunt Rose was staring at Emma with new eyes. You know, Helen did always say there was something different about Emma. She said Emma reminded her of someone, but she could never place who. Emma looked like she was going to be sick. This can't be happening. This can't be real. There's more, I said, feeling no mercy now. Grandma wrote about how she tried to get Mom to treat both of us equally, but Mom was so guilty about the affair that she overcompensated by spoiling Emma. Grandma watched me get emotionally neglected for years while the affair baby got everything she wanted. Stop calling her that, Mom screamed, finally finding some fight in her. Why, it's what she is. And according to Grandma, it's why she's always been your favorite. Guilty conscience much, Mom. Marcus, who had been silent through this entire revelation, finally spoke up. Emma, did you know any of this? Emma shook her head mutely, tears streaming down her face. Of course she didn't know, I said. The golden child never had to question why she was golden. But now you know, Emma. You know why you always got everything you wanted, why Mom and Dad always took your side, why you felt entitled to slap me when I wouldn't give you jewelry that was never meant for you in the first place. Dad looked up from his hands, his eyes red with unshed tears. 30 years. 30 years I've been raising another man's child, thinking she was mine. David, she is yours in every way that matters, Mom said desperately. Biology doesn't change love, don't. His voice was sharp. Don't tell me what matters right now. You lied to me for 30 years. You let me believe Emma was my daughter while you knew the truth. The room erupted into chaos. Emma was sobbing. Mom was trying to explain herself to Dad. Great Aunt Rose was muttering about family scandals, and Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear entirely. But I felt calm for the first time in weeks. Finally, the truth was out. Finally, the playing field was level. The aftermath of the truth bomb was swift and devastating. Dad walked out of the house that night and didn't come back for 3 days. When he finally returned, it was only to pack a suitcase and tell Mom he needed space to process everything. He moved into a hotel while they figured out what their 30-year marriage meant in light of Mom's deception. Emma had a complete breakdown. The woman who had always prided herself on being Daddy's girl discovered that Daddy wasn't actually her father. Marcus, to his credit, stayed by her side through the initial shock, but I could see the wheels turning in his head. He'd married into what he thought was a stable, successful family, only to discover it was built on lies and affairs. The extended family reacted exactly as you'd expect. Great Aunt Rose, bless her heart, called me the next day to apologize for the intervention and to say that she understood why Grandma Helen had left me the necklace. "Your grandmother always was a smart woman," she said. "She knew how to balance the scales." The rest of the family split into camps. Some blamed me for revealing the truth and destroying the family, conveniently forgetting that the family had been built on a lie from the beginning. Others quietly reached out to express their support and their shock at Mom's decades-long deception. But the most satisfying part was watching Emma's perfect world crumble piece by piece. Without our parents' unconditional support, Dad was too devastated to function normally, and Mom was too busy trying to save her marriage. Emma had to face the consequences of her behavior for the first time in her life. The delayed honeymoon to Italy was officially cancelled when Marcus realized that his new wife had slapped her sister over a necklace that had never rightfully belonged to her anyway. Their marriage, barely 3 weeks old, was already strained by the weight of family drama and Emma's inability to handle not being the center of attention. Emma tried calling me several times, but her tone had completely changed. Gone was the entitled anger and blame. Now she was desperate, pleading, almost pathetic. "Rachel, please, we need to talk. I understand now why you were upset. I understand why Grandma left you the necklace. I'm sorry for everything, for slapping you, for blaming you, for not seeing how badly our parents treated you growing up." But her apologies fell flat because they were motivated by desperation, not genuine remorse. She wasn't sorry for her actions. She was sorry for the consequences. She wanted me to help her put the family back together, to somehow make Dad forgive Mom, to restore the comfortable lies that had defined our childhood. "I can't do that, Emma," I told her during our final phone conversation. "You can't unknow the truth, and you can't undo 30 years of lies. The family you thought you had never actually existed. But we're still sisters," she said, sobbing. "Biology doesn't change that." "You're right," I agreed, "but respect does. And you lost mine when you slapped me at your wedding because I wouldn't give you something that was never yours to begin with." The final piece of poetic justice came 2 months later, when Mom and Dad's divorce papers were filed. Dad, it turned out, had never really recovered from learning that his favorite child wasn't biologically his. The betrayal was too deep, the deception too complete. Mom got the house but had to buy out Dad's half of the business. The perfect family empire crumbled just like Grandma Helen probably knew it would when the truth finally came out. Emma and Marcus lasted another month before he filed for annulment. Apparently, discovering that your wife's entire identity was based on a lie, combined with witnessing her capacity for violence when she didn't get her way, was too much for a 3-week marriage to survive. Emma moved back in with Mom, which was probably the first time in her adult life that she hadn't gotten everything she wanted. As for me, I finally felt free. Free from the family dynamics that had kept me small and apologetic my entire life. Free from the obligation to be the bigger person, while Emma faced no consequences for her actions. Free from pretending that blood relationships automatically deserved forgiveness regardless of behavior. I kept Grandma's necklace, of course. Sometimes I wear it when I'm having a particularly good day, and I think about the grandmother who saw the truth about our family dynamics and decided to give me the tools to level the playing field when the time was right. She knew that someday Emma's entitled behavior would cross a line, and when it did, I'd need the power to defend myself. The necklace isn't just jewelry anymore, it's a symbol of justice, a reminder that actions have consequences, and proof that sometimes the people who love us most are the ones who give us the strength to stand up for ourselves. Emma still posts on social media occasionally, but the inspirational quotes about family have been replaced by vague statements about learning who people really are and moving forward after betrayal. She's learned finally that being the favorite doesn't protect you when the foundation of that favoritism is revealed to be fraud. And me, I'm thriving. I started therapy to work through years of emotional neglect. I'm dating someone who values me for who I am rather than comparing me to my more accomplished sister, and I'm building a life based on authenticity rather than family obligations. So here's what I want to know. Have you ever had a moment where family karma came full circle like this, where someone who always seemed to get away with everything finally faced real consequences for their behavior? Drop a comment below and share your story, because I know I'm not the only one who's dealt with family favorites and golden children who thought they were untouchable. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life family drama stories. Share this video with anyone who's ever been the forgotten sibling, or who's dealt with family members who think blood relation means automatic forgiveness regardless of behavior. Thank you for sticking with me through this wild journey of family secrets, wedding drama, and ultimate justice. Remember, standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Sometimes, the people who claim to love us most are the ones who need to learn that love doesn't mean accepting disrespectful treatment. Until next time, keep those boundaries strong, and remember that you don't owe anyone forgiveness just because they're family. Life's too short to let people slap you at weddings and then blame you for the consequences.